Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shelley Strong, coming to you from Everything AI News, written by AI and human verified by our partners at Irrevo. Welcome to LavaCon 2023. I hope you're ready for an exciting day filled with insightful discussions and valuable takeaways. As we embark on this morning's journey into the fascinating world of AI, it is my pleasure to introduce your guide for this session, a true visionary in the field of AI and expert in content strategy, Mr. Jason Kaufman of Irrevo. Today, Jason will lead us through some of the practical use cases for applying AI to content management. He'll unveil the potential applications that can revolutionize both your professional endeavors and possibly your daily lives. So, without further delay, please join me in welcoming him to the stage. Jason, the floor is yours. EA. I can't believe it's really him.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for indulging me with that. As you can tell, I've had a lot of fun with AI. Welcome, everybody attending online as well. I think we're going to have a lot of fun today for the next 40 minutes. I'll be your host. We're going to be talking about generative AI, in particular, ChatGPT. And I'm hoping to really show you guys some real-world applications, some things that you can bring back with you and use right away. We're going to be going over initially just some general concepts about AI. Then I'm going to go over some demos. We're going to start to look at some use cases, and then potentially even talk about some of the concerns and maybe misconceptions. So we're not going to go over all of these systems today. As you guys probably know, there's already a ton of them. But we're going to primarily focus on ChatGPT, the generative AI model. And for those of you that attended my workshop session yesterday, I apologize, some of this is actually a little bit of review. So first I want to talk about the concept of AI intuition. It's really that skill that we can all hone. It's that ability to be able to recognize those opportunities to leverage AI in our daily lives, or at work, or otherwise. And it is a skill that really comes with practice. Right? The more you use these systems, the more you learn about them, and you learn how to communicate with them, the better you'll get at recognizing those opportunities to use them. I will say, it's really important to kind of focus, because these applications are growing sort of exponentially. So it's going to be impossible to kind of keep up with everything. So don't try to boil the ocean, but really just focus on those use cases and scenarios that apply to your lives the most, but also that you find most exciting, fun, or interesting, right? So really kind of focus. And throughout the presentation, you'll see these little Easter eggs at the bottom there. It's the ChatGPT logo. Those are all clickable, right? So this presentation will be available to you guys. Afterwards, you'll be able to visit those links, and those will lead to some really fun prompts that I'm going to show you today. So just generally, I know some of you guys have, well, let me just ask, how many of you guys have had some experience using ChatGPT? Awesome. And maybe no experience? Okay, so pretty much everybody. So just generally, I won't spend a lot of time on prompting, but prompting is really that ability of ours to tell the system, tell ChatGPT or other AI systems what it is we want, but also how it can best help us get what we need. So one of the first things is giving it a role or persona. Tell it who it is, right? It's got loads of data and information it's been trained on, but this is really that opportunity to narrow that down so it can focus on what it is you want. Give it some context. Tell it who you are, your role, what you're trying to do. And you can be as specific as you want with that. Then you give it the actual request. You're telling it, what you want the model to do for you. And then next is really how you want it to respond, the format you want it back in. Maybe you want it in a table, you want it in HTML, you want it in XML, formatted or not. And then the constraints. You're going to start to see some results you don't want. Right? So this is that opportunity to go back to that prompt and start to say, I don't want you to return X, Y, or Z next time. And you continue to sort of iterate on that prompt and build it out, and it becomes stronger and stronger and starts to get you more accurate results back. I wouldn't necessarily expect the best response or result the first time. It's more of a dialogue and communication. What's great about that is we're all really good at communicating via text. We're content people, we're writers. So in my opinion, there's nobody better positioned to be able to communicate with this technology than us. So creating good prompts isn't just really about a question, asking the AI. It's about teaching the AI system to do the task how you want it done. So I want to talk just briefly about prompt drift. So once you do get that prompt how you want it, well, the underlying system is changing. The technology is changing. It's being trained. It's learning from the inputs. So that's kind of the shifting sands, right? You don't want your prompt to be static. You're going to start over time, let's just say this. The result you get today may not be the same result you get next week, right? Maybe slightly different. But then you tune the prompt. You go back and modify it and revise it, much like you would any kind of content. And that's one thing a point I wanted to get across, and this was something that I arrived at recently. Prompts are content. We're content people. We know how to manage content. We know how to write content, revise content, publish it, share it, archive it, all of that. So for me, it's a paradigm shift saying, hey, all of this stuff that I've done over the course of my career applies. It's all applicable. I can manage these prompts, and I can probably become the best person on my team or potentially my organization at providing that service. So with that, you can create a prompt management program. So you'll see some of these components, strategy, capture, storage, sharing, all of those apply. Prompts equal content. So one of the things we're seeing out there is the emergence of the profession prompt engineering and prompt operations. And those are roles that I believe we're going to start seeing more and more in job descriptions that any of us are really well positioned to fill because of all those skills that I mentioned earlier. So hallucinations. I don't know if you guys have heard those terms, but if you've used AI, which you probably have, you've probably experienced it so far. But it's those weird outputs, the results that you get back, and you're like, no, wow, where'd that come from? Some of that's due to overconfident guesses. Maybe it's just putting something out that it thinks. It's formulating an answer, but it's not a good answer. It starts saying things that just clearly contradict. For example, compose a congratulatory message for a job promotion, and it says, sorry to hear about your job loss. But no, wait, it's not at all what I was trying to do. So I see those as opportunities to go back and revise that prompt to get a better result. So here's some popular generative AI models. Of course, you guys are familiar with ChatGPT. You may have used Anthropic or Claude by Anthropic, Bard by Microsoft, Llama by Meta, formerly Facebook, Bing. Sorry, Bard is not from Microsoft. Bing is from Microsoft, of course, and Perplexity. All of those are large language models. And one thing that I found really fun is to sort of open a number of them at the same time and ask them all the same question, right? And just see them process it and then get the result. It's really fun with creative writing, and I've got an example of it in there as well. But asking it to compose a poem, and this is something we did in the workshop just yesterday, and see how creative it is or inventive it is in pulling those words together and comparing them, and even taking those results from all four of them. And you could do this with creative writing or professional writing. Take those results, put it back into one, and say, hey, consolidate all of these for me. So you can kind of get the best of all worlds with that. I think it's worth mentioning, the system, okay, let me back up. Plagiarism, right? It might be kind of a thought on some folks' minds, right? Is it pulling in sentences from just things that exist out there already? And my understanding is no. It's putting together words and calculating how often these particular words, given this context, are strung together and in what order. And one thing that I found interesting about that is sometimes I'll take a result and I'll Google it just to see if there's something out there that, it's plagiarized from. And what I found is it's just not. They're individual words that it's putting together, and a lot of it is the first time, those particular thoughts have maybe even been had. I'd probably go so far to say that, or at least strung together. So we're going to focus on ChatGPT. Another thing I'll look at here is prompt chaining. And you can develop prompts that are really, really long and have it perform a whole string of tasks. But given that prompt drift, one practice that I found really helpful is chaining prompts together. So you've got specific prompts where you're giving it a persona saying, hey, you're an expert technical writer. You're going to write a draft version of this document. And then the next is, you're an expert fact checker. Now go and search the web for information that maybe contradicts this. And then the next and the next and so on. So I'll show you just a quick demo of how I use it to create my newsletter as well as this video here. So I'm going to take you out to, this is an application that we've developed that I use actually for kind of chaining my own prompts together. So I've got a number of these, and these are processes, right? And each of them have their own prompt associated with them. So this one, for example, is data consolidation. Let me put it over here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the demos a little bit here, but this is a way that I've organized prompts in a logical manner to where I can run each of them in different systems. And as you experiment with a lot of these various systems, you'll find that some of them just do some of these tasks better than others, right? So you're kind of stringing these prompts together, but you're also using a system kind of formulaically. And with each of these, I can paste it in, run it, get the results, and then move on to the next. I use different plugins. I'll show you some of that as well within ChatGPT. I have it actually write the newsletter draft. And when I say everything AI in my newsletter, it's all done by AI. All I do is publish it, consolidate it, and then publish it. Is that cheating? I don't know, but I think it's pretty fun to do. So you can see this prompt here is quite long. I tell it the structure it needs to use. I can even put in there the best practices I want it to follow, the voice or tone I want it to use, and so on. Then I have it go and do some fact checking. I have it generate social media posts. I had ChatGPT generate a list of the best practices for putting together posts in each of these social media channels. And then I reference those in my prompt, saying use these best practices when writing these. So you can use the AI to help you write your prompts. Okay, so let's dive into, and that's Harrison.
Welcome. This is
So this is just an example of the newsletter I put out.
Written by AI and human verified by Irrevo. In today's news, the National Security Agency, NSA, has taken a significant step forward in harnessing the power of AI.
I won't play the whole thing.
NSA Director Army General Paul Nakasone has announced the establishment of an
So that
AI
is a unique
security
image.
center.
I took
This
3
center will
images
play a
of him,
crucial role
combined
in
them into
overseeing
one.
the development and integration of artificial intelligence within the U.S. national security systems. Its mission is to facilitate the
So all of
secure
the
adoption
text,
of new AI capabilities
the
across
voice,
the
the
national
background,
security
the
enterprise
background
and
music,
defense
all of that
industrial
was
base.
general by various AI
General
systems.
Nakasone emphasized that the AI Security Center will collaborate with
The
various
movement in this
stakeholders,
image
including
was done in
US industry,
Perplexity,
national labs,
which is another
academia,
AI system
and select foreign
that can
partners.
take an image
This initiative
and
aims to maintain the United
animate it.
States' competitive edge in AI, leveraging the unique expertise within the NSA. In China, tech giant Alibaba
So,
is making remarkable
kinda
strides
get the
in
idea.
generative AI.
So it's an example of chaining all these prompts together, having it do different portions of what it is you want it to do, and then consolidating it all in the end. Okay, so let's go on to, we're going to look at some specific use cases in content creation and just transforming content. We're going to look at some common content management tasks and some use cases around that, and then get into some actual analytics. There's some pretty cool analytical functions within ChatGPT today. I don't know if we're going to get to all of these. I've got, I think, 14, and I've got maybe half an hour. So we can focus in on a few. So I'm just going to flip over to ChatGPT now. And one of the things I mentioned initially was you can use ChatGPT to help you build your prompts and to help sort of correct or alter those prompts to get better results. That was one of those intuition sort of things that occurred to me. I'm like, well, hey, I'm kind of stuck. Well, let's just write a prompt that helps me write prompts. So in this case, it's an AI expert, prompt engineer, assists me in creating and revising prompts so they perform optimally. I've got a lot of other instruction in there. And one of the things I did a little further down here was just did a number list to kind of, summarize for it what I wanted to do, make it pretty straightforward. Then I also input, some best practices. These are the ones I included in that slide, the constraints and so on, and then additional considerations. So you can make your prompts as long and prescriptive as you want. Then I had it ask me, where I'd like to begin, right? So maybe I'm a technical writer. Writing a document on APIs, for system engineers. So I've asked it to go ahead and just write me a prompt that will help give clear direction when I use it to assist me and to write that document. See, act as a technical writer with a deep understanding of APIs for system engineers. You're writing a document for system engineers. This document aims to provide comprehensive information. Now I'd like you to draft an introductory section for this document. Begin by explaining the significance of APIs and so on. Now I can say, use the prompt. Oh, there we go. Maybe I'll just copy the prompt, put it in. Just start a new chat. So it's going to start generating what I asked for, hopefully. Yeah. It's kind of that outline of the document. And you can see it's taken some creative license, the ever-evolving landscape of the system engineer. But I could say, provide me an outline. Sorry, my fingers are freezing. For an API document. So this may be something that you guys have all used or done before, something that's available, but it's going to provide you, likely, some ideas around things that you can include, that you maybe haven't included before, that you could include in that documentation. Getting started, API basics, endpoints, authentication, security. And if this is, behind a firewall, you may be able to even put in the existing API documentation you've got, saying, okay, now put it in this structure, fill in the blanks, tell me where I can add some more detail. So that's the prompt assistant. And all of these links are in the presentation if you just click on each of the use cases, and it'll take you over to ChatGPT. You do need a login, and for the ChatGPT 4, you'd need the paid version. Most of these are in 3.5, which is just free. So ideation and guidance. So that was something that those of you that took my survey mentioned you could use some help with, is ideation. So I wrote a prompt that just said, hey, I'm a writer. I need assistance around writing a document. I'm tasked with writing. And I just said, hey, well, I said, what questions should I ask? What things should I cover that might help me with my idea around this document? And I put it in the prompt. So I said, ask me each of these questions one at a time and help me build a roadmap for my document. And so that's just what it does. So you go in, it'll ask you a question one at a time, kind of fill in the blanks, and in the end, create an entire roadmap for your document. And it's one of those things where you say, hey, let's cut to the chase. I don't want to answer any more questions, or skip to question 10, something like that. It's kind of a choose your own adventure type thing. But these are all just examples. I'm not trying to be prescriptive here, right? These are things that you can take, copy, modify, change, and hopefully just kind of give you ideas for some other prompts that you might be able to create on your own. So here's an example of leveraging ChatGPT for, let's see here, revising a document to align with style guidelines. So I went out, and forgive me if there's anyone from Canon here, but I found a really not so good knowledge base article. Is there anyone from Canon here? Okay, sorry. Yeah, so this is from 2016. So I'm just going to copy that and take it over. And so what I've got here are just some guidelines, just a summary of guidelines. Maybe I have an online style guide. Maybe if this is behind my firewall and I've got ChatGPT Enterprise, I've maybe got a link to my own guidelines documentation for voice, tone, formatting, and so on. You can add that link in and say, apply these guidelines to this document. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste that in. And so there it goes. I think at the end I even asked it to provide some examples of, no, I didn't. So, I mean, this to me is definitely something that I would use if I were still writing these type of articles, right? Even the formatting is better. The verbiage, so I've got another prompt to address the voice and the tone. And one of the things here, I noticed it's got something important and caution at the end, right? Typically, those are kind of things you want up front. We put the important and caution portion at the top. So it should rewrite it and bump that up. Yeah. Oh, well, it literally went to the top above the title, but you get the idea. So you could go back to your original prompt and say, hey, if there's important or caution or information that may impact the user experience, make sure to put that before the instructions. So you can tell the prompt to do that automatically for you. So that's one of those opportunities to kind of refine. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this version, and I'm going to run it through another prompt for voice and tone. So what I did was, well, I used ChatGPT to search the web for any information it can find on Apple's voice and tone and style guidelines. And I had it distill it down to sort of a cheat sheet for me. So then I wrote a prompt that describes that voice and tone, and I'm asking it to apply that voice and tone to the same document here. I'm going to paste it in. So I've taken a really rough article, and I'm sure you guys have some old, maybe outdated content somewhere that needs a new life, needs to be revived some. This is a great application for that, right? This is something that would have otherwise taken somebody, I don't know, an hour? maybe less, but it does take time, right? So this is a time saver. And I think it's worth mentioning, I'm sure a lot of your companies that you work for may already have or are putting in place some policies around use of AI. Hopefully they're exploring opportunities to bring something in-house that you can use that's behind the firewall. But there's a lot you can do, policy permitting, outside of that firewall that's just generic. It's not specific to customer data, to your internal processes. If you want an outline for writing an API document, you can do that. Then you can take it in-house and do what you want with it. So, looking at the voice and tone here, if you encounter an issue with your camera, it may display an error. This guide provides solutions to common error messages. Right? If I look at the initial here, if there's a problem with the camera, an error message will appear. Follow the on-screen instructions. So one may be a little softer, flow a little bit better, and then it goes into each of these error messages and so on. So then I'm going to take this, and you can do all of this in the same conversation, the same thread. Just put in the next prompt and say, now you're an expert in graphic design or HTML. Perform this to the code or to what we've already put in. So then I'm going to go to format. So now I'm telling it, actually reformat the document. Now, if you had a template, an HTML template that you apply, or an XML template rather, either way, you could put that in. Just say, hey, apply this template to this content. But in this case, I'm just saying, I think, to use Markdown. So it's reformatting it for me using Markdown. I could say, apply the Microsoft Manual of Style, or any other best practices or styles. And then I asked it to recommend some meta tags for SEO while it was at it. So you can see, you can transform this content in a lot of different ways. So now I'm going to go over and ask it to, now I'm using the advanced data analytics. It's not a plugin, but let me just show you. All of you guys, I think, have used this. I'm not sure how many of you have access to GTP4, the paid version. I'll just show you this quickly here because I'm in these prompts that I'm doing, I'm kind of bouncing around between some of these. The DALL-E 3 portion is for images. It can generate images for you based on your text input. That was something they just rolled out within the last couple of weeks. Also, they've given you the ability to attach an image file, and you can say, hey, describe what's in this image for me. Count the books on that bookcase that are blue. You can, even if you have a detailed enough photo, have it make a list of all the titles and authors from those books. It's pretty cool stuff. It's also got the Browse with Bing feature in it, so you can ask for real-time information, what's out there on the web, have it do searches, provided a URL, maybe to a style guide or otherwise. And then the advanced data analytics, which I'm going to show here in a second, and plugins. So these are just what they're called here, but these are links out to other applications like Zapier, Wolfram, and there are about 1,000 of them right now. About a month ago, there was about 500. Before that, so it's grown exponentially. But a lot of these tool developers and products are finding opportunities to plug in to ChatGPT. And there's the plugin store, which is where you can go and search and find additional plugins to use from your favorite applications. And I don't work for OpenAI. I'm not on their payroll. I'm an independent consultant, so I'm not trying to sell you on this, but I'll tell you, for 20 bucks a month, it's not bad. It's pretty awesome, actually. So now I'm going to paste the content directly in here. I've asked it to regenerate it and format it and apply, I think, even a CSS style. And then I said, and then provide me the HTML document itself so that I can download it. So let's go ahead and have it do that. And that's using, again, the advanced data analytics portion of the tool. All right, so you can see down here it's working. If you want to kind of look behind the curtains, you can expand that there and kind of see what it's done, the steps it's taking to go and perform the action that you've asked. And if you've got, you know, certain XML tags or CSS tags, meta tags, you know, anything, you can put that entire list in your prompt and say, apply these. You know, pick out the tags that make the most sense for the content in this document, or create a list recommending which tags should be used in this document. So once it gets done with that, this takes a little bit. There. So now it's generating the HTML file and the link for me to download it. Oh, here it is with the meta tags. So you can start to see, you know, some of those processes that you or some of your teammates kind of do every day. You might be able to streamline a little bit. Just use this as a tool to consolidate things from many different resources and just reshape each piece of content. And where it starts to get really interesting was I found there's a plugin to Google Sheets that can plug into the ChatGPT API. And you can input that as a formula within the spreadsheet. And that blew my mind, because I took a list of 100 knowledge-based titles, and I wrote a prompt that said, look at each of these titles, you know, write a document that aligns with that, or an FAQ, format it this way, provide me the HTML, and I was able to click and drag that down, all 100 of those. And the output was all right there in the spreadsheet. And some of the systems you use, you can just upload HTML, right? So you can take that, literally upload it into a knowledge base or other content system, and you've got 100 FAQs. That, to be honest, we're pretty good. I'd say 90% of the way there. Now, in no means am I saying just publish things out there directly. Quite the opposite. I mean, we need to go in and validate, verify, make sure there were no hallucinations in there, and it's not making things up. But you can even say, hey, given this list, are there other titles that maybe are missing? Where are the gaps? Are there other things that I need to, or I could create to kind of help fill in the blanks? Okay, so it said, hey, you can go ahead and, yeah, so here's the HTML document that I asked for. I'm going to download it. And I wasn't specific around, you know, what CSS to use or how to format it. I just said, hey, be creative and, you know, put in some formatting. And that's what it came up with. You know, so I could take that, change the colors, tweak it around, or ask it to have applied a template up front. But is that better than the initial one? I'd say so. But you know, does it need some edits? Sure, some revisions. And I definitely see this as ChatGPT as a tool that I'm not looking for it to do all the work for me. I want it to do a lot of work, but I want it to get me most of the way there. And if it can get me to the 10-yard line, you know, I can take it the rest of the way, you know, pretty quickly. So it's definitely just a tool. It's not the end-all, be-all. So, translation. I wonder if the last thing I put in there, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and take this output, even though I did move the important and caution stuff up to the top at one point. And I'm going to have it translate the content into other languages. So I wrote a prompt that said, hey, you're an expert linguist in translation. I'm going to give you some content. I want you to ask me what language to put it in and so on. And I think I even said something about, I want to make sure if a word can mean two things, you take the most common one, or identify those areas where it may not make total sense. So I'm just going to paste the content in, and it says, okay, well, I didn't tell it which language to put it in, but it chose Spanish, which is pretty common for a lot of our content. And then I can say, format it. I could say now Chinese, Mandarin, or other. And so what I've done with this is taken a lot of this output. I'm just curious, how good is it? Thank you. And taking that and putting it back into like Google Translate and say, hey, translate it back to English. I've even played kind of the telephone game with it, translated from one language to another, and then went back and had it compare to the original, and compared to the original. It was pretty close. So it was really surprising to me. And Google Translate has a pretty small character limit, I think. You can translate portions of a document at a time, but this is pretty fast. Then I can say, now put it in HTML. Again, so, I should have said the Chinese version, right? So again, going back and refining the prompts. Okay, so I want to look at, let's see, I'll skip this one right here. So taxonomy. So I've got a couple of documents that I created using ChatGPT just for some fictitious taxonomies. I said, give me 3 different taxonomies about 3 different consumer products, just so I could use as an example. And I'm not even using the data analytics portion. This is just in 3.5. So I'm just going to paste that text directly in there. And it's going to come up with, it's going to consolidate each of those into a new taxonomy. Nope. Let's say, I'm just going to have it regenerate. That's a little better. Right, so for those of you that have done taxonomy work before, sometimes that initial step of just getting it all together in a logical structure or a semi-logical structure is a lot of the work. You can even say, hey, recognize opportunities to consolidate some of these nodes into one. Recommend the terms that should be used. But then you can take this and vet it, with your SMEs and so on. But this would be really helpful, especially if you're rolling out a new taxonomy in a new system. And you can take it a step further. Let's say, so I've got this output taxonomy here, and I've got a fictitious list, or a made-up list of documents concerning the iPhone. I've got 100 of those. I'm going to put it in. And so my prompt, I've asked it to take a look at that list and recommend the categories that each of those documents should be in. So maybe you've got an output from one of your systems, and this can be in any format. You put it in as XML directly if you want. But you can say, look at all these titles and just recommend where they should go on the list there. So if you've got an existing output from your system, you can put it in and say, hey, do any of these look like they're in the wrong category? It's another way you can kind of apply it there. So this is in 3.5. Like I said, this is free. Now, if this were for your own organization and data there, you want to make sure, of course, that it doesn't have anything sensitive in it. But if this is customer-facing taxonomy or customer-facing content, it's already available to them. And chances are, ChatGPT has already learned from it as part of its training model. So this one I had a lot of fun with. So I use web browsing, the Bing web browsing extension in there. But I want to have it go out to this community support page. This is just an Apple community page that's got tons of discussions on it. And I told ChatGPT to visit that page, then find, based on urgency, timeliness, perceived impact, customer experience, and so on, find a thread in there that's that would be a good candidate for a knowledge base article to educate those customers potentially. And so I'm just going to go ahead and run it. Yeah, so I said, okay, say go. So it's going to browse out to that page. Thank you. It's going to browse out to that page, look at all of those threads, and find the one that it thinks is pretty relevant, dive into that, and look at the discussion in there and see what they're talking about, and then formulate a knowledge base article based on that. So if you consider the application of that, that could be a functionality in the discussion itself, where you've got an AI that's in there and it's listening and it's seeing what the feedback is and who's saying what, and putting together an article for them to use on the fly. Not just recommending, well, here's one that already exists, but writes it out custom to that individual. So it's finished browsing. They rely on custom tones for different notification. So restoring custom tones after iOS 17 update. I don't know whether there's already an article out there for that, but this might be something that I just run by my subject matter experts and publish out to the site. Or have it do another search for the site and say, hey, what articles should be updated based on this new context? All right, so another example here is user feedback. So I've got some, again, an example of some user feedback that I had generated for this. Battery life's disappointing, I'm facing frequent app crashes, and so on. So I'm just going to copy that. Actually, am I using? Yeah, so this is the advanced data analytics. So actually, I'm just going to input the file itself. So maybe I've just exported this from my system, or a survey, or transcript of something or other. You upload it in here and say, hey, analyze this. So what I did, this was a aha moment for me. I was like, well, what report should I ask for it to generate? And I said, well, let's ask it to look at the data in there and tell me what reports I can get. So I went ahead and did that. And so it's going to assess that data set, and then it's going to provide back to me a list of reports. Then I can say, okay, well, run this one. Give me this output. So overall rating analysis, document-specific ratings, keyword frequency, sentiment analysis. Many of these I'm fully aware of, have used before, some of which maybe I hadn't thought of. I could even say, hey, give me some new creative reports that maybe no one's ever done before, and just see what happens, right? And I can say, how about, what's an interesting one? Top concerns. So chances are you guys already have some reports that do this, but this is great for just on-the-fly assessments, copying quick data, putting it in, just trying to get a quick answer. Where before it may have required going into the reporting system and going to the report and diving into that and drilling down and then sort of assessing it. It's kind of doing all that for us. So while that's working, I've got one more I'm going to do after this. It's analyzing the document. Actually, I'll skip that one. It's similar to this, where you can just put in the document information, have it go in there and assess that for gaps, opportunities, what's being used, archival possibilities, and that sort of thing. Okay, so it's going through and doing what I asked. But yeah, the data analytics part is very powerful. I don't know how big a file. I'm sure it's maybe 3 megs, maybe 10. I'm not sure, but play with that and see what it'll take. Okay, so those are the majority of those there. I think just quickly here, are we out of a job? I really don't think so. Like I said before, I think we're some of the best positioned people to be able to be on the forefront of this for our own teams and for our companies. We're great at communicating, we're great at formulating and taking complex ideas and distilling them down. Engineering prompts, we're going to be some of the best people to be able to communicate with these systems. So, I encourage you guys to reach out if you have any questions. I'll be around for the rest of the conference, happy to talk about any use cases that might apply to your own jobs. So thanks very much, you guys.